Hurricane Kirk is now an extremely dangerous Category 4 hurricane. Good Thursday evening, I'm Mike Naso with a video update on the tropics. When we take a look out there obviously in the middle of the central Atlantic is a very impressive, powerful Hurricane Kirk, and it looks beautiful. Look at that eye on water vapor, looks like a hole punch. Beautiful storm. It could get even stronger, but the good news is it's going to turn out, although we will watch for potential impacts not only from high surf to areas of the islands, Bahamas, and Bermuda, but potential impacts up here towards the Azores as time goes by. We have Tropical Storm Leslie, which is still being sheared a little bit by Kirk, but it is starting to get a little stronger, and this is forecast to become another major hurricane, a Category 3, and move a little bit further west than Kirk, although we'll likely still see that turn out. Another wave leaving Africa behind Leslie, and this area of disturbed weather in association partly with our dissipating tropical depression near Mexico could be a cause for some heavy rainfall over Florida. We'll talk about all this. Here's the latest on Hurricane Kirk as of 5 p.m. It's at 21.1 north, 46.7 west. Winds are up to 130 miles per hour. That makes it a Category 4 storm moving northwest at 12. It should maintain that northwest heading and then move north and then northeast, and then eventually become non-tropical as it pushes far up into the North Atlantic by Monday night and Tuesday. But again, if you're in the Azores, you are not in the cone, but you're close enough to where you could see potential impacts. Here's the visible satellite imagery as the sun goes down. Look at the way the sun hits that eastern eye wall there. Very, very impressive. That is a dangerous hurricane. Thank goodness it's over water and not making landfall. Very impressive outflow in all quadrants. And again, as it continues to push away, we'll have high swells and tropical storm force winds within this area. So again, in the Azores, you guys are right on the edge there of potentially having tropical storm conditions by early next week. But right now it's a low likelihood. Hopefully Kirk will stay between Bermuda and the Azores, and we won't have to deal with it anymore. Here's the latest on Leslie as of 5 p.m. Tropical Storm Leslie was at 10.1 north, very far south, 31.5 west. Winds are up to 50 miles per hour, is moving very slowly west at 6, and it should become a hurricane and then eventually a major hurricane by early next week. So by Tuesday, Kirk will be way on out of here, and we'll have Leslie down here. The track has shifted slightly to the west, but even if it takes the left edge of this cone, right now it would still stay far enough away from the northeast islands of the Caribbean, but you'll want to watch it just in case. Here's the satellite, and there's Kirk, obviously, taking up a lot of space in the central Atlantic. There's Leslie, and it's finally starting to see a little bit of lessening of that shear as the outflow from Kirk here dives to its west and southwest. It can blow up some convection, and that's why it should become a hurricane, and then through time, a major hurricane. Here are the European ensemble models, and they bring Kirk out to sea. Here comes Leslie, and they want to make it a very dangerous major hurricane, and they turn it, most of them, but it gets kind of close here towards the Sargasso Sea and the area here of the Northwest Caribbean, the Northeast Caribbean rather, those northern islands. So watch it, just in case some of these southern tracks pan out with Leslie. You could definitely see at least higher surf, if not direct impact, so it's still far out there, but I think we'll be okay. We're going to watch the Gulf here because some of the models want to take a storm, maybe even a hurricane, towards the west coast of Florida sometime in the next 7 to 10 days. Right now, there's not tremendous model support for anything intense, but you don't want the rainfall. Now, those are the Europeans. Here's the GFS, and again, look at this mess here over Florida in association with our area disturbed weather and troughiness and what's left of a tropical depression from the Pacific near the Gulf of Tehuantepec. All of that spiraling towards wet weather in Florida, and then of course it takes Leslie as a major hurricane. The GFS keeps her way out there, out to sea. Now, in the Caribbean and the Gulf, there's our tropical depression, which is inland, dissipating. It never became a tropical storm, but is impacting the areas that were flooded out by Hurricane John a couple of weeks ago. And so it looks like whatever weather doesn't dissipate is going to move into the Gulf, along with this troughiness and this area disturbed weather, this upper level low. It's just a big mess. and that mess could potentially do something. It's a low chance right now the next 5 days, but we'll watch it because it'll probably move in the direction of the west coast of Florida. Here's the rainfall forecast for our depression in the eastern Pacific, and look at here, 4, 6, maybe even 6 to 8 inches, higher amounts in mountainous areas. They do not need that, and that's all going to spread across into the Bay of Campeche. Now, some of the hurricane models want to take this system, dissipated now, and bring whatever's left of it into the Gulf and then hook it towards Florida. And if you look at some of those intensity forecasts, look at this. That's a hurricane. Category 1, Category 2, one even going up to a Category 3. Now, I don't think that's likely, but I wanted to show it to you just so that people on the west coast of Florida could keep an eye. They've been through a lot, especially in the Big Bend and then areas inland from the heavy rainfall that preceded Helene and then the hurricane itself. But we'll see. If there's a disturbed weather here interacting with what's left of the depression, something could brew and head in that direction. But right now, there's nothing to worry about. But the forecast from the Weather Prediction Center does have heavy rainfall over areas of Florida. The good news is Georgia and Appalachia up here, this area doesn't seem to have much for the next week. Whatever does develop will probably take more of an easterly heading than a northeasterly heading, and that would be great news to keep the heavy rain away from Helene-ravaged areas. Speaking of Helene, the recovery continues. The aftermath, the wrath of Helene continues. The news is not good. The death toll continues to rise. Watch headlines like this, though. The death toll is going to be tremendous. It's very, very bad. This is a very deadly hurricane. But we don't need hyperbole at this point from the media. And when they say it's become one of the deadliest hurricanes of the modern era, that's true. That's true. And almost all the death tolls from hurricanes are from inland flooding. And remember, we had a situation where we had rainfall preceding the hurricane. So it's not all directly from the hurricane. We had waterlogged areas. We talked about this when Helene was over the Gulf, that this was going to impact waterlogged areas. With the death toll now hitting 200, Helene is now number 16 or 17 of the deadliest in U.S. history. But it's a far cry from the deadliest in U.S. history, thank goodness. And hopefully some of the death toll will not reach the ridiculous levels, but Helene is definitely a very, very deadly storm. And the second deadliest we've seen in the last 40 years, 50 years. So after Katrina, obviously. So that's not good news. It's very devastating. Scrolling through the social media feed, I just randomly scroll through here. We've had this little boy was swept away from his mother, and that was devastating. We have, look at this video here out of Asheville, North Carolina, from Chris Faber. A building being ripped apart by a telephone pole. Just insane here what we're dealing with. Watch how that building misses the house and then it just rips into the telephone pole with the high waters. We've had our leaders or potential future leaders visiting in Virginia. We forget that it would hit areas of the mid-Atlantic too. It's not just areas of the southeast. The death toll continues to rise. As Derek Ort says on Twitter, it likely won't rise as high as the wild rumors suggest, but if that's just in the Asheville area, that number will go up. So again, it's very, very bad as we continue to watch other storms out there. Kirk will likely remain out at sea, but it's very devastating, and that was one heck of a hurricane. Hurricane Helene was definitely something to have to deal with, and we don't want to see that. Here's some road closure information. Look at this. This is I-26 West, closed as of now until March of 2025. And then if you want to see something crazy, I-40 East closed until September 2025. These are very remote areas, and if landslides take out the roads, that is going to take a long, long time to recover, and it's also taking a long time to get to those poor people. So again, the wrath of Helene continues, and I'm going to keep you updated on that as time goes by. So we'll continue to watch the tropics, we'll watch the Gulf of Mexico, we'll watch Hurricane Kirk, Tropical Storm Leslie, and of course more on the wrath of Helene. I'm Mike Naso, and I'll talk to you next time.